What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Bench Podcast. My name is Joey, and this is Angel for episode 225 and our final episode in the series that we are doing for the perfect offseason. Angel, congratulations for getting through this in about a week and a half. Good job on you. This is our second episode recording, our back-to-back days, 2 episodes a day. It's been a lot of football talk, and I'm tired as a person. I literally have not gotten tired about talking about football for a second.
And what's fun is if you're following along too, you learn these teams when you're doing this research. So you get a nice clean feel of them before the draft, before free agency. You get a nice feel of them before the draft and free agency. So you go into, and then even like if you're listening, we've gone through every team, the draft needs, the key free agents, and so like we've gone together on this journey. Now we're at the end of it here, and like you said. Talking ball is always fun. I love football. I miss football. This is all the football that we can get right now. So I'll take it.
Before we jump into this, make sure you join us next Monday, 11 a.m. live stream as free agency opens up. We will be streaming from 11 to 2, 3-ish. Let's see how long the news goes. But we'll be on as long as news is dropping. If you want to keep up and you want to see it all in one spot, make sure you follow us on all our social medias and follow us during that live. If you want to get all the information in one spot, check us out. Let's jump into it, Ainge. The perfect offseason featuring the NFC South is what we're finishing with today. Interesting place to finish for us, to be honest. But nonetheless, let's do it. And start it with the Carolina Panthers. Listen, Carolina is teasing their fans, namely Bryce Young and Dave Canales. What are they doing there? I don't know, but still, I like it. I like that we're going to get another year of Bryce Young, because just who's not rooting for the guy?
Yeah.
Like, who's not rooting for Bryce Young?
Yeah, he was benched early on, and we were like, he's a bust. He came back, and he started playing with, like, that anticipation that we saw in college, that, like, almost, like, they compared him to Steph Curry because, like, he just would see the field well. He's a good point guard, and he started playing well with very bad to below average weapons. So yeah, and Canales representing all the Latin community out there, but also proving his worth there by saying, like, I'm gonna bring this guy back, fix this offense with very limited weapons, minus Jonathan Brooks most of the year, minus Thielen was hurt most of the year, so we're just gonna piece it all together and we're gonna make a pretty good offense. And I think it's a nice team. It's not great. It's a nice team, though. It's a very positive team.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so they're starting off with $30 million, but they can cut Miles Sanders and cornerback Dane Jackson, save about 10 there, so I up them to about $40 million. Miles Sanders, they might cut, they might not, because obviously Jonathan Brooks out for next year. So I'm really curious to see if they were to draft in the running back, how he might be like a training camp cut.
You're so disrespectful. You're so disrespectful to Chuba Hubbard. He had a great season.
No. But I'm saying, like, they obviously like to have multiple backs. So like so I would cut those two guys to get the number up to $40 million. And the first move I have is to extend cornerback J.C. Horn coming up on his last year. You don't let good players walk. You don't let the best player on your defense, because you just traded Brian Burns. You let him. You already traded him. Let's keep J.C. Horn in house. Well, Derek Brown's probably the best player. Second best player, J.C. Horn. Extend him immediately. Get that thing done. Send a message to your fans. We're not going to let good players walk anymore or be traded for nothing. I've already seen little rumors about J.C. Horn being moved. Let's not do that. Let's keep him in house. He's a very good corner. Once upon a time, he was picked in front of Patrick Surtain. So obviously there's talent there. There's obviously upside there. So keep him in house. Secondly, this guy's becoming one of my favorite linebackers here. Linebacker Jamin Sherwood. I don't know why that's so hard to say. Jamin Sherwood.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
24 years old, filled in for CJ Mosley pretty nicely. You're losing Shaq Thompson already. You guys already moved on from him. You have linebackers there that aren't very appealing or sexy. So I think you get him in there. solid starter with upside. So you're trying to get a young defense in here. Sherwood, 24 years old, a plug-and-play guy.
Yeah, I think Sherwood is a nice gamble for the Panthers. It does hurt to kind of look around and see Brian Burns doing his thing and Frankie Luvo doing his thing and Jeremy Chin doing his thing, all for other teams. You think about the talent that could have been on this roster still, but I think Jamie and Sherwood is a guy who can, like you said, grow into outplaying this contract and maybe extending him into the long-term, leader of your defense or one of the leaders in your defense there in the middle of the linebacking core. And obviously played behind some great linebackers for the Jets. We saw that work out for Zach Bond, where he was kind of blocked as well on the depth chart, gets a chance to shine on his own team. And, look what happens to him there. I think you're hoping for a similar thing here with Jamie and Sherwood. And then JC Horn, love it. Yes, keep him in, please. You have the cap space, no brainer.
Yeah, then now let's get the sexy pick. Let's get the wideout that we've been wanting in Carolina for a couple years now. Let's connect him back with his former OC, David Canales. Let's go get wide receiver Chris Godwin here to play that slot. I think this would let you let go of the Thielen kind of experiment. Get a younger, not young, a younger wideout who's has playing experience with head coach David Canales, and also elevates your wideout room. Last year he was killing it, obviously. Then he had the foot injury, so I think signing him to a nice deal, get like a number one option. I'm not sure if it's number one wideout, but number one option there for Bryce Young, and you have a couple young guys there already on the roster. Get him there, have him become the center point, the focal point of this offense. Kind of what they were trying to do with Deontay Johnson last year. The same type of wideout, like a separator over the middle kind of guy. Exactly what he is, and a godsend for quarterback Bryce Young.
Chris Godwin's been a quarterback's best friend since the moment he stepped into the league. He's just been that kind of guy. I think it's an added bonus to take him away from a division rival. There's obviously ties there already with Dave Canales, and I think I'm actually thinking this can actually happen. Chris Godwin coming over, it's a great fit. I think you write out the Adam Thielen thing as long as you can. When he was on the field last year, he was your best wide receiver. So I think you keep him there as well. There's obviously a relationship there between Bryce Young and Adam Thielen. They brought back the Red Rocket to kind of help mentor as well. I think still recovering from that car accident. I should laugh about that.
That's messed up.
But yeah, I like Chris Godwin here.
Yeah, and then my last signing here would be center Ryan Kelly. You've already invested so much in the offensive line, and the offensive line was good last year. That's a good offensive. You paid a lot for Robert Hunt, but that actually worked out. You have your two tackles there, and then now you put Ryan Kelly in the middle there. Get him to solidify that entire offensive line. Get that to be a position of, dare I say, strength for his Carolina Panthers team that hasn't had a good offensive line in a long time. Let's get Ryan Kelly there. Easy plug and play guy. Veteran will help this young quarterback out and this young offensive line. Let's put him here. Easy plug and play guy.
Yeah, Ryan Kelly too. You got to think of the experience he has calling out protections and recognizing defenses, and how he could take a lot of the mental load off of Bryce Young. Just being there with all that experience next to some really good linemen as well that you said. I think bringing a veteran in like this around Bryce Young is another step toward, if it's going to work with Bryce Young, let's give him the pieces to make it work. You got an edge here from Georgia.
Yeah, in the draft here, obviously you just lost Brian Burns, and you have Clowney out there and Woonham on the other side. So you need some upside there. Obviously, Woonham's younger, so he might upside, but Clowney is what he is. Not a future piece at all. Go draft Jalen Walker there, edge at number 8 overall. You're trying to rebuild this defense. It starts with pass rush. You already signed the corner in this scenario, so let's go find another pass rush to help out Derek Brown and this defensive front.
I think Jadeveon Clowney was your leading sack guy last year with about 5.5. I think
that's not great.
That's not going to work.
No.
And Jalen Walker and these Georgia guys have been playing well in the NFL lately. So definitely, I think I think this as a whole is another step in the right direction for the Panthers. But it's really all about Bryce Young. Like, can you get this kid to turn the corner and complete one of the best comebacks I've ever seen for a young quarterback. We've been seeing this happen with with quarterbacks flaming out on one team and maybe popping it again with another team. This guy flamed out on the Panthers, got benched, was pretty much 1 foot out the door, now making a comeback with the Panthers.
Yeah,
it's one of the coolest things I've seen.
Yeah, this is a team, obviously David Tepper is just an absolute moron. But besides that, you want to root for this team. Like Bryce Young, obviously, like the world called him a bust. The world hated him instantly. They got benched. So that's the embarrassment there. Because at that time, CJ Stroud was thought to be the future. Now it's almost flipped. Stroud's questionable, and Bryce Young is going into year 3 with a pretty good end to like year 2. So this team, if they do these moves, a step in the right direction, not make the playoffs, but a step in the right direction for this young team.
All right, let's move on here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I took on their offseason with $9 million in cap space. Let's jump into it. The Buccaneers were dead in the water when Chris Godwin got hurt, when Mike Evans got hurt, and they were kind of just written off, and then made that heroic climb back into eventually losing to the Commanders. But still, you got to be excited for them. Baker Mayfield's the guy. Baker Mayfield's good enough to win multiple playoff games. And I think Baker Mayfield at his top end could win a Super Bowl. Like if you get Baker Mayfield playing his best football, he can go on a run. Like he's that kind of talent. A former number 1 overall pick. He's found a home there. I guess we got to see how another offensive coordinator leaving is for the Bucs, but so far so good. I start here with Azeez Al-Jaliri. You need some pass rush help. You got Joe Tyron moving on, Shaq Barrett moving on. You have losing a lot of talent here on the edge. I think Azeez Al-Jaliri is I don't know if he's under the radar anymore, but I think a lot of people are going to want to take a shot on him because he has the talent still. He's been obviously blocked there by just better players with the Giants, because one thing they do have is great edges. And so I think Azeez Al-Jaliri could be a nice piece for this Bucs defense. You'll notice a theme here. I did focus on defense. I think they're going to move on from Jamil Dean. They lost Carlton Davis already. You're going to need some cornerback help here, and I gave them as much as I could. Nate Hobbs comes over from the Raiders. He plays inside. He plays outside. He's a solid starting cornerback. I think similar to like a Carlton Davis, maybe not as that good, but kind of similar in that tier of player. And you get him for relatively cheap. I'm not sure why he's cheap, to be honest, other than he's been playing for the terrible Raiders for the last couple of years. But yeah, bring in Hobbs. Mike Edwards is my other addition there to the secondary. Or you keep him in-house. I like Mike Edwards. I don't know why the world doesn't. But I like Mike Edwards. I think he knows the defense. You've won Super Bowls with him. I think you keep him there. He's just a solid safety. The Joey Poyer, Micah Hyde types in my mind. My big one is the wide receiver, so I'll say that for last. I think you draft Jahdae Barron at 19. I love Jahdae Barron. He's an absolute dog. I'm trying to think of someone what's a good blitzing cornerback, because that's the comparison. He's good in coverage, but he made a ton of plays in the backfield. He's just a playmaker, maybe like a Devin Witherspoon, that kind of guy who's just he's a good cornerback, but he's just all the way around. I think that's what Jahdae Barron is. He's an absolute dog. He will be your CB1. And then at the end of the year, you're looking at CB1, Jahdae Barron, CB2, Nate Hobbs, and you got Mike Edwards back there, and it's a decent secondary. My last guy, though. Well, let's start there first. How do you feel about that work on the defense, more so in the secondary?
Well, I think taking Hobbs, I'm with you. He's a good cornerback, and if the Raiders let him go, that's kind of a mistake. A homegrown guy can play inside out. He's very versatile. Tough corner. Fits this Tampa Bay team, like a kind of bunch of tough guys there. Obviously, they re-signed Lavonte David, so you have him kind of leading the pack of that toughness kind of guy. So yeah, Hobbs there, nice. Ojulari, you never know with pass rushers. Like we've seen people have a resurgence on different teams. So yeah, I think pairing him with Darby on the other side is nice. Mike Edwards, that's your guy. Look, I think he's just about as average as they come. But next to Anton Winfield Jr., you don't need to be great. You just be good, and that's a very good secondary. And obviously the Barron from Texas here. If you're gonna lose a playmaker like Dean. I think Barron here is a nice guy, cost efficient, and this also would make your defense a little younger. You started feeling a little old last year, so I think now a little bit younger, fresh faces. Yeah, I'm here for it.
I would have been all over a linebacker here, but they did announce they're gonna bring back not Devin White, the other one,
Lavonte David
for one more year. He signed a 1-year deal, so I didn't go linebacker here, but I do think they address it at some point. My last addition here is, I think, the perfect spot for a troubled wide receiver who bounced around. How many teams was he on last year? Deontay Johnson. He was on the Steelers. He was on the Panthers. He was on the Texans. He was on the Ravens. I think he's on the Ravens twice. I think they also claimed him. Like, it's just Deontay Johnson had the worst year for a wide receiver as far as like someone who was supposed to be a great wide receiver. Still pretty young. I don't think he's 30 yet. And so Deontay Johnson, I think, comes here to Tampa Bay. They have a need, but they're not desperate. I think Jalen McMillan showed that he could fill in admirably at number 2. You probably want more at number 3, but he's a second-year receiver. So maybe he pops off and he grows into that number 2, like I'm sure they want him to. But you bring Deontay Johnson in. If he's your 3, great. If he regains his form, though, you basically have a carbon copy of Chris Godwin here. A great route runner who controls the middle of the field and separates like no one's business. You put him next to Mr. Consistency, Mike Evans, and you have 2 great, maybe 3 great weapons. Throwing Kate Otten in there, you have a nice, stable receivers for Baker Mayfield to work with. Yeah.
So this is more of a cost thing, right? Because Godwin not signing back, like you can't afford him.
Yeah, you see that $9 million up there.
Yeah, it's Chris Godwin's gonna command about $25 to $30 million in the market, unless they take a bunch of restructures, which we can't predict. Yeah, and Deontay Johnson, I don't know what it is, but I don't think he's a bad wide receiver.
He can't. I think it's in the head.
Yeah, it's all in the head. And here, obviously, you go here. This has kind of been like a rejuvenation center for worn out players here. Baker Mayfield obviously came here and kind of kindled his whole career. So let's just bring him back. And I'm down for that.
Don't you feel like he gets with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, and they're the type of guys who are like, all right, dude, let's get this right. I'm Baker Mayfield. I was almost out of the league because of my attitude, because of my antics, because I wasn't good enough on the field. And look at me now. Like, let's do that for you as well. I think this is a good spot for Deontay Johnson to kind of recoup his career. And I think if he doesn't do it this year, we might be talking about Deontay Johnson playing in the CFL next year.
Literally. It's been a weird road for one-time stud wideout, but let's bounce him. Let's get him back here. This is good. This Bucs team's still good. I mean, I know they kind of flamed out towards the end, but this Bucs team's still good. So yeah.
All right, let's move on here to. We're doing all 32 teams, so we have to do them. Let's do the New Orleans Saints, and I applaud you giving yourself the task of rebuilding the Saints and making them a Super Bowl contender. Because if you talk to them, their ownership, they're contending for Super Bowls right away.
Yeah. So the graphic is okay. So the graphic is they're at negative $39 million in cap space. So I had to read so many articles and go through so many things to figure out how they can get out of this cap hell, which they always are in. Like Sean Payne really left this horribly for this regime. Poor Kellen Moore has to. Either way, this is not me just randomly putting out numbers and me randomly putting out restructures and cuts. I did research. This is my positive outlook on how to change this team from what it was last year to one step in the right direction here. So let's start with this cap number. Let's fix it in 2 minutes. They're negative 39 and the cap right now. Releasing Kelly Sanders, Cedric Wilson, and Foster Monroe saves you 7.8. Right, that gets you to 31 million. There's easy restructures for center Eric McCoy, Caesar Reese, and Carl Granderson. Those guys that you don't cut, that you keep. If you restructure those to signing bonuses, you save 17 million there. That puts you at 14 million. Then this is the one that's gonna kind of haunt Saints fans. You restructure Derek Carr's, you spread it out, but that means he's on the roster for 2 more years. So So you save 30 million with a quick restructure because he's already said he's not taking no damn pay cut.
Nope.
He earned all that money.
Yeah, watch the tape.
Yeah,
Watch the
watch the
tape.
tape, dude. So
Yep.
he takes. It's not even a pay cut. We stretched out this to 2 years. We saved $30 million. That puts us at 16 mil over the cap. That's pretty nice starting point for a team that started out with negative 39. That's
Yeah.
research. You can go look this up. This is not me making up numbers at the top of my head. This is what will actually happen if they
All
were to
right,
do
we
this.
got it. We got it.
To make sure, I don't want people to think that I'm just making shit up. All right, with $16 million, let's start to play around here. I think the first thing you do is extend wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. Last year, a breakout season. You don't know the future of Chris Olave, and you found something good with Shaheed. I think you keep this guy in house. Obviously not a number one, but a good asset to this passing game, to this wide receiver room that is iffy right now because you don't know if Olave is one hit away from like retirement, and so I think adding him and extending him here is my step one. You would extend him, right? He's a good wideout.
I'm trying to get the injury report on him here. It's a meniscus tear. So you would imagine he's gonna respond from that pretty positive. It's not a terrible prognosis. It definitely gets worse. And so yeah, he was electric, man. He was really breaking out, and I like him there. And yeah, like what you said about the other receivers, you have at least one guy who can go and do it. I like it.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna re-sign a guy who actually found his footing here last year. Found his footing back in the league last year. Defensive end Chase Young here. Let's keep him in house.
Yeah.
Let's not lose these players here. Let's keep him in house. Let's try to build something off last season. Chase Young here. Let's sign him back. Get him into a nice. I don't think it'd be a whole lot. It would be a lot more than it was last year, but you can maneuver the cap, or these teams are good at going over the cap. So let's just do that. Either way, keep him in house. Chase Young here. It worked there last year. Let's not mess it up, right?
Yeah. If it works there, I mean, we saw him play as good as he's played since he's been on the Commanders. And so I don't know what it is about New Orleans, but he's been good there. Why let him out?
Yeah. So my next move here is a response. I'm gonna sign Morgan Moses, right tackle, because Ryan Ramczyk might retire. He had a restructure, and all the articles I read, all the reporting is that he's leaning towards a retirement with knee issues, which sucks. He was a very good tackle there. But Morgan Moses here gives you a nice right tackle, not great, but not bad. Solid right tackle. Right. The offensive line is not bad. The offensive line isn't as bad as people think. I think Kellen Moore coming from the Eagles for 1 year kind of saw the necessity and the power that you can have with a good offensive line. So I think here Morgan Moses is nice, easy, not expensive tackle here. And then here's my last move here. I'm gonna do a trade that you've been hinting at and makes sense for this team. I have them trading for tight end Dallas Goedert. Obviously, the connection with Kellen Moore is there. They're gonna lose Juwan Johnson. They might cut Foster Monroe. They have Taysom Hill there, who's not really a tight end, really. And you have Foster. You're losing almost your entire tight end room in one offseason, or one's getting older. So I think getting Dallas Goedert here to help this wide receiver receiving room, like tight end, obviously, but like still like help Derek Carr here. Are you a fan of this? Do you think it's realistic that they would trade him?
I think it's definitely realistic. I'd hate to see him go to the Saints and finish his career in New Orleans, but I think it makes sense with Kellen Moore going there. Obviously, you said they're losing Juwan Johnson. He's also a good run blocker, and I know Alvin Kamara got a lot of carries last year. There's no reason to think they won't give him the rock a bunch of times this year. And so having that nice, like classic inline tight end, I think he's a good move. I think this definitely could happen. Like, yeah, he's. I don't know if they would take on his contract. I think they would probably need the Eagles to give him a little help there. But maybe if they floated out a third round pick or a fourth, I think maybe it might get it done.
Yeah, you're just trying to. This is mainly this Chris Olave insurance, just in case he doesn't bounce back to what he once was. You still have Shaheed, you still have Dallas Goedert there to at least balance it out.
MVS also played well for them.
Yeah, that could be a nice late signing. Derek Carr and him, for some reason, played well together. We don't understand why, but whatever. Yeah. So in the draft here, last year they drafted Kool-Aid, McKinstry there. This year, let's go back to that cornerback and draft at number 8 cornerback Will Johnson, Michigan. Let's start pairing these corners together. Paulson Adebo might leave. Let's just replace him with a nice young stud cornerback and rebuild that cornerback room. Start fresh. I think this is a nice move for them. They have a lot of holes here, but I think at corner you have two young cornerbacks. That makes you feel good as a fan base and as a front office. Like we're at least addressing the problem, a problem.
So something I am like impressed that they did last year is ship off Marcus Lattimore. I think he's as washed as they come, and to ship him off just at the right time. He's also kind of a head case, and now in less than a year, rebuild that room with Will Johnson and Kool-Aid McKinstry. You've gotten much better, much cheaper, and much less drama. So I think that would be very impressive if they could pull something like that off.
Yeah, so this is my view on the Saints. Like that's what I think is restructuring. Just hit singles. You're not trying to hit home runs or triples. Just hit singles. Get yourself in the ballpark because this division is very winnable. It's not a tough division. So I think little moves here get yourself in the right direction. Let Kellen Moore actually be able to cook on this team.
Yeah, and you've married yourself to Derek Carr. So at the end of the day, this if you're not winning or if you don't go as far as you want to go, it's because Derek Carr's not good enough. There's really not much you could do to this roster. Not that it's a great roster, but you've made it so that you're relying on Derek Carr to play really good football. Maybe Kellen Moore does unlock that. We'll see. That's the New Orleans Saints. Let's jump into our last team. That is the Atlanta Falcons. Negative $5 million in cap space. We're seeing a theme here. NFC South not being too responsible with their money, but
not yet again, spenders there in the South. There,
Here we go. I will off the bat say I think moving Kyle Pitts would be a good idea. I think a fresh start for him, a fresh start for you. I don't know if he fits this roster much anymore, especially with Michael Penix taking over. I think you might see them commit to the run a little bit more and kind of play a little more play action, get Penix and athleticism out on the perimeter, get him run the ball a little bit, get him bringing the safeties up, stuff like that. You have a great backfield. And so I think more of an inline tight end might fit their offense a little better instead of just an enormous wide receiver that's only kind of good in Kyle Pitts. I'll say that off the bat. But Justin Simmons worked there. So bring him back. Why not? You have him in the building. He worked well with Jesse Bates. That's a strength of yours. If you can retain it, then retain it, please. Besides him, I think you're going to take a couple of shots here. The first one is Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick was in China for half the year last year. Went to his press conference, went to China, did not come back until like week 8. And so Hassan Reddick was gone. When he did come back, didn't do much of anything. But he's just a year or two away from being a 17-sack guy. And so I think you take a shot here because you need pass rush. The Atlanta Falcons last year needed pass rush before the draft, before last year's offseason. And they failed to address that. And so I think you bring in Hassan Reddick. Maybe I'm overdoing it here, but Hassan Reddick is the first of 3 moves I'm making in the pass rush area. Nate Hobbs, the other guy. We like Nate Hobbs. We've talked about him. I think he would be a slam dunk if you could land him here for a cheap contract. So far, how do you like the defense with Simmons, Reddick, and Hobbs?
I like Simmons a lot. Obviously, I'm a Bronco fan, so I've seen him play his entire career. He played well last year too. He's a very good. He's a professional safety, which is what you need when you're trying to change a culture. Nate Hobbs, obviously, we talked about it earlier. I love Nate Hobbs. He's a very good corner. Put him opposite AJ Terrell, maybe even in that nickel spot. This Falcons team is the roster is good, and just a few maneuvers here. Obviously, Reddick is a tough sell for me. I didn't see a lot last year, but it couldn't be worse than what you had in 2024. It was bottom bear. It was very bad. So you have to take shots and risks. And Reddick, for all he's off the field, he's a very good athlete, and maybe in the right system, he might regain that talent.
My next one here. Well, I'll go to the draft first. I think you draft Shamar Stewart if you do keep that number 1 pick because you're trading for Trey Hendrickson. I think this is the splash move that the Falcons need to make this offseason. You have the stars on offense already. If Michael Penix is the guy, you're going to need this defense to play so much better than it did last year. And I love Simmons and Reddick and Hobbs and Shamar Stewart. but you need a splash play in that front 7 because you just don't have it so far. AJ Terrell is great. Jesse Bates is amazing. Keeping Justin Simmons and signing Nate Hobbs would be incredible. But if you get Trey Hendrickson in here and then get this young athletic freak Shamar Stewart, a reclamation project, and Hassan Reddick, you get those 3 dogs at rushing the passer. I think people are taking the Falcons a lot more serious.
Yeah, and it also shows your fan base we see a problem and we're going to fix this problem. So obviously Trey Hendrickson is an absolute stud. Getting him for, if the price apparently is a second, if you get him for a second, a guy who can lead the league in sacks, slam dunk. You got Reddick, you got Stewart there in the draft. You're kind of overloading this position. Like, we're going to find someone who works opposite Trey Hendrickson. This is a great move, and like I said, with the Saints, this is a very winnable division. Yeah. This is not a hard division to win. So yeah, I'm all for this.
If they made these moves, would they be the favorite in the South for you?
It's the quarterback question, Penix. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but they were close last year and they didn't have a pass rush. Yeah. So if they were to solve that need, year 2, Penix, Bijan Robinson is an absolute stud. Drake London has emerged as one of the better younger wideouts in the league. Maybe you trade Kyle Pitts for a pick that you used to go get Trey Hendrickson. So you kind of moved your picks around to get Hendrickson. So yeah, who knows? It's going to be, or would you trade in a deal to sweeten it? Cincinnati, take Kyle Pitts and a second and give us Trey.
Yeah,
that's not bad. That's not bad right there.
I do that in a minute.
Yeah. Either way, this is. Do these? This seems not far off from making the playoffs. So do these moves? I'm on board. I can see it.
So that's the Atlanta Falcons. That was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be a little bummer, but the Falcons were a lot more fun than when I first saw that on my list. I thought, this division's up for grabs, and so I think if you're, and that to me as a GM, that would signal, okay, go get it. It's just you. Like, you go make some moves and take this division. This division could literally be won in free agency. And I get you to play the games, but what I'm saying is the teams are so close. You can literally win this division right here in the offseason by just making that splash move and separating yourself from the pack. That is the NFC North, and that puts a finish on our perfect offseason series. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy all the videos. If you want to see the individual videos, check out our playlist on the channel as well, entitled The Perfect Offseason. All the individual teams are on that list. We will see you on Monday with our live stream, 11 a.m. Hope you're ready. It's going to be a wild weekend. There's going to be trades. There's going to be rumors. If something crazy happens, like if Metcalf gets traded or if any other big trade happens, we'll probably jump on an emergency podcast. But if nothing like that happens until Monday, we will see you Monday. Until then, bye.
Peace.